In this video, we will analyze and solve scenarios involving tax and gratuity. We're going to start by looking at the neat cleats and then move to the dining out. That takes up the question or tips. So we have the first activity or the first worksheet, and Oliver or Olivier needs new cleats for football season. He saved his own money to purchase them, so he wants to find the best possible deal. So he went to these three different places: Dick's, Mobiles, and Champs. So first, I am going to annotate my text. So that means I'm going to put a triangle around the percent. And I notice that this is a sale, so this is going to be a markdown. So that means I have two options. One is to subtract the percent of a number from my total, or I can change this 20% to 80%, which is how much he would actually pay. So I'm going to do that in two ways. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to annotate this. I'm going to put a triangle around my percent and underline or put a box around my whole. Try to put a box around this hole as well. And so here, this is a situation, and we talked about it before, so I'm going to save this one for the last part. All right, so I think I'll do this one in two ways if we have time. So I know that I want 20% off of $65. So I'll set up my proportion as we've been doing. 20 over 100, because percent is always over 100, equals 65. Something over 65, rather. Now we could do the cross product method where we multiply 20 times 65 and divide by 100, right? And many of you have said that you like that method because it's something that we're very familiar with, right? To figure out what our missing value is. And I also said that we can just simply turn this into a decimal, 20 hundredths, which is the same as 2 tenths, and times that by 65. So I'm just simply putting that in my calculator, and I get $13. Now, if I think about this, I know that if I got 20% off of 65, it's not going to equal $13. So this tells me this is how much he saved. He saved $13 from this 65. So the next thing I need to do is subtract that 13 from the total. And the price of the shoes, or the cleats rather, would be $52. Okay, so this is the method one, where we actually found the percent of 20% of 65 and subtracted it. So let's try the second way, where I'm going to do 80%. And you're saying, where is that 80 coming from? Well, I take 100%, which is the total price of the shoes before the sale. I minus the 20. And so he's actually paying 80% for the new, for the shoes. So 80% of 100 equals something over 65, right? And I'll do the same thing. I'll do 80 divided by 100, and if you wish to do cross product, you can. So 8 tenths times 65. 8 tenths times 65 will also give me $52. Okay. In the first scenario, I subtracted subtracted 13 from the 65. In the second scenario, I subtracted the percent first. All right, so now let's do this one, 150. Yes, it is 150% markup. It's still over 100. Equals something over 20. And there were multiple ways we could do this. If you had, really saw this right away, you could say, well, 100% is 20. And then 50% of 20 is 10. So he must be paying $30. Okay, that would save us some time if we just saw that we could use this percent here and sort of use our number sense to calculate what that would be. Or if you didn't see that right away, you could use the strategy we've been doing, which is simply calculating it with the cross product or by dividing and making it into a decimal. So 150 divided by 100, I know I'm going to have a mixed decimal, I guess, a mixed fraction, if you could say that, it is a fraction. And then times that by 20. And indeed, we get that $30. So in this situation, the cleats will cost $30. And then lastly, this is the one we had to do 2 steps, right? And in fact, the mistake here, which we talked about in class, was that they added these two together. So we know that we have to do 1% off and then follow it by the other percent off. Okay, so what does that mean? So I'm going to just go ahead and work through this problem. I'm going to put a triangle around these 2%. And I'm going to take 10% off to begin with of my total, which is $80. Okay. And again, if we saw, okay, well, what is 10, a tenth of 80? That would give me 8. And if you don't see that, definitely use your cross product or change this into a decimal and multiply it by 80. Okay. So that means I have $72 or $8 off of 80. So 80 minus 8 would give me $72 after the 10%. So now I'm going to take this additional 20%. So I'm going to do the 20% from the $72. And again, I suggest you use which method works for you. And at this time, I have $14.40. Okay, so again, this is how much I got off on that shoe. It is not the total price. So I need to do some a little bit of calculation. So I'm just going to erase this part here, and I'm going to take the $72 and subtract $14.40 from that. So the total price of the shoe, or rather the cleat, would be $57.60. Okay. All right, and we sort of already answered this one in the mistake that they made, in that they added those two together instead of taking them each separately. All right, do we have time for the next one? Let's see, hopefully. All right, so now this situation involves, let's see, can I move this over a little bit? Gratuity. No, it works, okay. And gratuity just simply is another word for tax, or tip rather. So here it's standard to give 15% or 20% gratuity or tip rather after a meal. That means, a sit down kind of meal. So here we will start by calculating the sales tax. So here's our part, or rather our whole. That's how much they paid. And this is the tax. All right. So same as on the previous problems, we just simply find the percent of a number. In this case, the number is $21.15 to figure out how much tax they paid. So I simply like this method. I turn that 600ths into a decimal. And then I'm just going to multiply those together. 0.06 times 21.15. And I have $1.26.9. So 269,000. So our money system only goes to the hundreds place. So I'm going to round up. I'm going to use that to round up. And I know this is how much I have off of the $21. So I'm going to take that from my $21.15 to figure out what is the, I'm sorry, my bad. I am going to add that. It's a tax. I'm going to add that to my $21.15 because I want to figure out how much tax was added to the meal. So I'm running out of space here, so I'm going to put it right here. $22. And I'm going to say 42 cents was added to the meal. Or no, was $1.27 was added to the meal. So this is how much I have. All right, cool. All right, so now I have my gratuity. So I'm going to do the same thing. But this time again, I don't want to, and it specifies here, I want to go back to my original amount. So I'm not putting the tip on the subtotal, I'm putting on the original amount. And I believe that's how they calculate it when you go to a place, hopefully. So we have $21.15. We're going to use the 0.2 or 2/10 times $21.15. And so now my new total is, well, the new amount of tip is $4.23. So I'm going to add that to what I have. But I'm just going to save that for now. Okay, so this is my tip. All right, so now the last thing is to add it all together. So I've already added the tax, so I have the $22.42. And the last thing I want to do is add the tip. And so the total for the meal is $26.65. Okay? And just to go over this, in each step of the way, we just did percent of a number. Nothing was different. We added the totals, we added the tax, and we added the tip at the very end, or here I added it before, but that's fine. And we found the total amount that they would have to pay. All right, so hopefully this helps, and I'll talk to you in class.